I have left Dorset behind. I have started making my way back home. Instead of taking the boring, unscenic motorway route, I thought I would take the scenic route home, and I thought I would stop off at a couple of gardens. The first one being Kelmscott Manor Gardens, which was home to William Morris. It's a garden I've never been to before, but the photos look sublime. So I'm now in the village of Kelmscott. I've had dinner at the Plough Inn, which is a really fabulous pub. I've eaten there before. The food is good. I had fish and chips, which was delicious. And now I'm off to find the garden. Well, I have just paid for my entry. With gift aid, it was £15. The summer home of William Morris, Kelmscott Manor is a Grade 1 listed farmhouse built in 1570. Morris loved the house as a work of true craftsmanship, totally unspoilt and unaltered, and in harmony with the village and the surrounding countryside. He considered it so natural in its setting as to be almost organic. It looked to him as if it had, quote, grown up out of the soil. Kelmscott, perhaps the most evocative of all of the houses associated with Morris, contains an outstanding collection of his own personal possessions and works, as well as those of his family and his arts and crafts associates, including furniture, original textiles, pictures, carpets, ceramics, and metalwork. You enter the house into the old hall, which Morris saw as, quote, really the heart of Kelmscott House. It was used as the dining room. The manor was very simply furnished, so simply that Morris's wife, Jane, described life here as a continual picnic. It was a place for friends, not for acquaintances, who found its informality a little too unconventional. One complained, "The house is lovely for its oldness, but oh, so artistic. We sat in a row in the plain, painfully plain dining room." Morris describes a fictionalized Kelmscott Manor in his novel News from Nowhere as everywhere there was but little furniture, and that only the most necessary and of the simplest forms. Morris was allured to the qualities of handmade objects. It enraged him that the skill and creative expression in craft production should be swept aside by the mechanization that defined the Victorian age. Morris said, quote, "Time was when the mystery and wonder of handicrafts were well acknowledged, when imagination and fancy mingled with all things made by man." So much of what Morris cared for was about continuity across the centuries, before the Industrial Revolution reset society's values and compromised artistic standards. He later recalled that, quote, "All the minor arts were in a state of complete degradation, and with the conceited courage of a young man, I set myself to reforming all that." Morris launched the interior design company Morris, Marshall, Faulkner and Co. in 1861. These tiles, early productions from the firm, embody the fresh creative spirit and individuality that Morris valued. This is the Tapestry Room. William Morris wrote about this room in his 1895 article Gossip about an old house on the Upper Thames. In it he wrote, "The walls of it are hung with tapestry, representing the story of Samson. They were never great works of art, and now, when all the bright colours have faded out and nothing is left but the indigo blues, the greys and the warm yellowy browns, they look better, I think, than they were meant to look. At any rate, they make the walls a very pleasant background for the living people who haunt the room. In spite of the designer, they give an air of romance to the room which nothing else would quite do." I have heard people miscalled for being romantic, but what romance means is the power of making the past part of the present. I have left Kelmscott Manor behind. It was amazing. And I am now at Asthall Manor, which was the childhood home of the Mitford Sisters. Everything about Asthall Manor is romantic. The gables, the roses, the lake, the ballroom, and the swans on the willow-bordered river Windrush. Then there is the connection with the Mitford Sisters, who lived here as children. The siblings moved into the Cotswolds Manor House in 1919 when their father bought the house to reunite it with the estate, which he had inherited from his own father in 1916. The house, which dates from 1620, was immortalised as Alconleigh in Nancy Mitford's novel The Pursuit of Love. Fans of the 1945 novel will be thrilled to learn that the Ons cupboard remains intact at the top of the back stairs, as hot as ever, its slatted shelving still piled with laundry. Asthall's current owner, Rosie Pearson, isn't immune to the Mitford magic. She has enjoyed several impromptu visits from Debo, the late Duchess of Devonshire, who stopped short in front of the wooden plate rack in the scullery and said Mabel, recalling a maid she had not thought of since childhood, and was delighted that the Mitfords' particular shade of blue paint had survived in the upstairs corridor. The house isn't open to the public, only the gardens, and seldomly at that. The gardens used to be open 1 day per year alongside a display of local artists' sculpture work. This year, however, the garden has been opened for 15 days, from the end of June until July 13th. Hopefully the garden will be open again for more days next summer. Dates are always posted on the Asthall Manor website, so if you want to visit, keep a check on there. Look at the views, just rolling Cotswolds hills. So many wonderful roses in bloom. I have just spotted down there, amongst the grasses and trees, a hammock. What a lovely place to spend an hour or two just daydreaming. You couldn't get a more picturesque setting. How lovely is this? I'm absolutely in love with the wild, whimsical look that they've gone for, rather than the polished, pristine gardens that you get. Got a very fairy tale-esque vibe to it. Well, I don't know if it definitely is, but this looks to me like a swimming pool. Perhaps not now, but it looks as though it was. See, we've got a filter system at the side here. And up there is a tennis court. Wouldn't that be lovely to have in your backyard? Or back garden. An Americanism escaping out there. I had just spotted this map by the entrance as I'm leaving, which I missed on my way in, and it looks as though it is indeed a pool. There we go, that answers that question.